Am I the asshole for telling my baby's father I'm pregnant and will be giving the baby up for adoption? This is a serious topic today. I can't wait to hear your comments. Let's dive into the story. Hi, y'all. I'm sorry for posting here. I genuinely need you guys' opinion and will accept whatever verdict you give me. I'm pregnant. I decided I was going to give the baby up for adoption quite soon after finding out, due to many reasons, among them my age and stuff. My family knows. The father doesn't know, and I don't want to tell him. He wasn't a kind person when we were dating. I don't want to get into it too much. We were sort of together, and it went bad fast. I ended up blocking him and cutting off contact, which was a struggle in itself. I feel like if I tell him, he'll use it in a way to keep me close. But maybe I'm being too selfish. I don't know. I figured if I told everyone that I didn't know who the father is, I'd be able to do it without his permission. Maybe, but I don't know. Sorry for this. Am I the asshole for not telling him? The author of this post actually goes on to respond to some of the comments. But first, let's dive into the comments and then we'll come back to hear her edited post. Our first commenter says, "You need a lawyer. For an adoption, you're going to be asked who the father is because a child can't be given up for adoption without both biological parents signing off. What specifically are they going to ask you in order to try to find the father? And the adoption agency will want to find him because not having his consent is grounds to reverse the adoption and rip the child from their adoptive family. Are there publication requirements? Will you be asked to name everyone it possibly could be? Will they ask no follow-up questions and risk a legal battle over your child later? And if so, who has to pay for that? You also need to know whether there are ramifications for you if you lie and say you don't know. Can you get in trouble? And if so, what kind of trouble? And you need to know what happens if he finds out you're pregnant before the adoption goes through, so you can make plans if he blocks the adoption. And finally, you need to know what happens if he finds out after the adoption. What rights he would have to reverse the adoption. What would happen next if he succeeded and the baby was taken from the adoptive parents and given to him, and whether anything would happen to you for keeping it from him. You may also have other options as a victim of physical abuse, and I know you prefer not to call it that, but that's what it was. That might be better than what you're planning to do now. The answer to these questions vary among jurisdictions, so you really need to talk to a lawyer now to find out all possible incomes. That first commenter had a lot of good advice. Our next commenter, Lucky Potential 6860, says, "Agree 100%. She needs to know what she's dealing with. In some places, she won't have a single one of the blocks you mentioned, and in others, she'd face them all. A lawyer is her best bet to getting through this smoothly. I'm thinking the adoption agency may help provide, or at least refer or consult, lawyers for this kind of stuff." Eric Cabby says, "In most states, you will either need the father's sign-off or the adoption agency is required to take due diligence to find the biological father and get permission. Please make sure you get a lawyer and do this right. Usually the agency, adoptive family, etc. will pay those fees. Please get a lawyer. We had our first adoption fall through because the birth mother lied about the biological father. He discovered his paternity a month after the child was placed with us. It was emotionally devastating to have an infant we bonded with so strongly taken and given to her grandmother, who took her only because she didn't want a gay couple raising her. Our second adoption, the agency did due diligence, but 4 years later we were contacted by the biological father who said he didn't see the adverts in the newspaper. It was too late for him, but it made it an emotional strain for a couple months. It didn't help his case that he had just got out of prison for assault and battery. Anyway, talk to a lawyer as soon as possible, for your sake, for the sake of the adoptive parents, but mostly for the sake of your child." Our next commenter says, "Depends what you mean by went bad. If it was just a falling out, you'd be in the wrong. but I fully support disregarding parental rights in cases of abuse. The original poster replied to that comment with, "It was only physical a few times. Mostly, he just didn't want me around other people or got angry when I did something wrong, which I do understand. He's a lot older than I am, and I fell for him, which is on me." Mountain Cat Cold said, "This is abuse. Both the physical part, regardless of how many times it happened, could have escalated if you'd stayed, and controlling what you would do and who you would be with. Him being abusive is not your fault. You are not the asshole, and it is a good choice." Coffee Forever says, "Also emotional abuse and coercive control on top of physical abuse. I'm so sorry you're in this situation. It sucks, and I'm sorry the father is so awful. I wouldn't tell him. The safe haven boxes would be good, or maybe she can leave the baby at a hospital, etc. God knows I'd avoid anything that could tie the child to me or give the father an excuse to be involved, which he'd probably want to be as yet another method to control her." So let's jump back up to the original poster's reply to some of the commenters. She says there's a lot of mixed replies here, which is fair, but the main one is to contact an attorney, so I'll try to do that and take it from there. Thanks for all the advice. Just some things I wanted to clarify. I'm sorry for how I came across. I wasn't going to blindly accept your verdict. Just meant I needed advice and would keep an open mind. He did use protection. Shit just happens, I guess. No, I can't contact his parents because he's a lot older than I am and I've never met them. I really don't feel comfortable having contact with him, but I'll see what I'll do. Please don't send me messages saying I'm a horrible person. I'm not telling him about the baby because I want to punish him or something. I genuinely don't know if it's a good idea." That's it, I guess. Thanks, everyone, for your replies. Poor girl. She's really in a rock and a hard place here. Let's read a few more comments. Jason1701 says, "I'm not going to judge you, but you should tell him. I know a family who recently lost custody of an adopted child. The adoption was vacated because the father found out about the child and contested the adoption. You're potentially setting another family up for heartbreak and losing a child that they have bonded with. If the father finds out and wants custody, there's going to be a huge issue." Our last commenter says it's not about whether he has a moral right to input into her life. He absolutely does not. It's that he has a legal right to consent or not to the adoption. And if he doesn't, it can really F up the kid's life and the original poster's life, and the family that adopts this baby. There has been a pretty wide array of opinions and comments on this one. So let's get back to some of the original questions this girl had. Is it okay to put a baby up for adoption without telling the father? Should she seek a lawyer? Is she doing the right thing, or should she come clean with the father? Should she say she doesn't know who the father is? Or will she have to tell the adoption agency? Should she contact an attorney immediately or try to just wing it? There's a lot of questions here and a lot of answers and really passionate opinions. I can't wait to hear your advice for this poor girl. Let me know in the comments. We read every single one of them. Until next time, my friends, keep the conversation rolling.